Okay, for this first move, you'll notice my palms are pointing up towards the ceiling, and I come up on my toes. Now I'm bending over to the side. Knees are slightly bent. Now we're going to the other side. Knees are slightly bent. Do not lock your knees. Keep them slightly bent to prevent injury to your lower back. Clasping the hands, fingers together clasping, palms up onto the toes. Pause for a second, bending over to one side. And again, bending over to the other side, keeping the knees bent. Now with your breath, you'll be doing a breathing in. So what we're going to do is inhale as we come up onto our toes, still inhaling, and now exhaling to one side. Inhaling and exhaling to the other side. Inhaling up and exhaling down. Another inhale up. Now, make sure your shoulders are down, or you're not crunching your shoulders or hiking your shoulders up. So shoulders down as often as possible. Okay, enjoy the rest of this movement. This exercise is called opening the bow. Notice that the feet are wider than shoulder width. This is more of a horse stance, so the feet are just wider. There isn't any exact measurement for it, but just a wider stance. And make sure your knees are slightly bent and that your pelvis is straight up and down, so that it's as if you're sitting on top of something, so that you're not leaning forward or leaning backward. Your spine is straight up and down. Now the movement is alternated from right to left. One hand pushes forward and out with fingers slightly bent, so neither a fist nor a totally open palm. Some of the fingers are slightly bent, with the index finger or the pointer finger slightly pointing forward, while the opposite hand pulls backward. An important note to this movement is that the arms are parallel to the ground, so that arms aren't above the shoulder or below the shoulder. They're straight out from the shoulder, as parallel to the ground as possible. Making sure you keep your shoulders down so that you don't get neck tension while doing this. So shoulders down. Always pay attention to that. It's probably the most common mistake. Shoulders start to hike up. It's a very common movement. So just hear me constantly nagging you, keeping your shoulders down. This movement is called pushing on heaven and earth. And it's another alternating hand movement. While one hand pushes up, the other hand pushes back in a harmonious rhythm with each other, so that they both begin and end just about at the same time. You start with one palm on top of your head, and that palm you're facing upward. And the other palm is about level with your rib cage or sternum, somewhere in there, level with your rib cage or sternum. And at the same time, you just push in opposite direction. One hand pushes up and the other hand pushes down and slightly back, with the palm facing backwards. Palm is backwards. And just alternate from right to left. Breathing in and out. Breathing in as you expand and out as you contract and come forward. Breathing in and breathing out. Enjoy. Oh, I almost forgot to mention, keep your shoulders down. Now this next movement was called turning the head to cure fatigue. Now we all know that the thyroid is located up in the neck region, and this might be an indication to what they were referring to with that name, turning the head to cure fatigue, as if it massages the thyroid. Well, what it does do is increases blood circulation through the neck to the head by gently stretching out the muscles in the neck. Start with your hands on your waist is the first part of this exercise, and just gently turn your head from the left to the right. When your head goes over the shoulder, you slightly look behind you with your eyes. So you stretch your eyes out a little bit, looking behind you. Be careful not to strain your neck. The next part of this movement, hands are located on the low back. So the palms are placed right on your lower back, and continue looking left to right. And the third part of this move, hands are about chest level, as if you're hugging a big ball in front of you. Elbows are slightly bent and slightly dropped. Wrists are slightly bent. Fingers are slightly open, so not closed together and not open widely. Just relaxed. In this move, make sure your shoulders are down so that you're not creating neck tension. And just continue the move, looking over your right and left shoulder. And continue with your eyes looking behind you. Now this next part of the 8 brocades is one of my favorites. It's incredible for so many things and reasons. You start with your thumbs pointed backwards. Hands are just above the knees, placed on your thigh. But your thumb is pointed backwards on the outside of your thigh. That's very important that you get that hand positioned correctly on the leg, with the thumb on the outside of the leg pointing backwards. Your width of your feet is roughly shoulder width, a little bit wider, slightly wider than shoulder, but not quite as wide as a horse stance or some of the other poses before this. And essentially you're just bending or twisting as if you're on a pole, and just sort of pivoting from the right to the left. Now to keep this exercise basic, you do not have to crouch down like you see me doing. I'm crouching down pretty low to engage my thighs and my hips and my knees. You can stay in one position with a lot less bend in your knees and just turn side to side, looking slightly sort of back behind you and above you, back behind you, just twisting your spine right and left. What you see me doing is more of an advanced way to do this move. And as you practice and you can do the advanced part, you'll get more benefit. So this next part of the 8 brocades is one of my favorite moves as well, because it's incredibly stimulating to the thighs and the hips. You get a really good thigh workout with this move once you push it into the advanced movement. Right now you see me keeping it pretty basic. Essentially you twist towards one knee, all right? It's like your chest is facing a knee, and you bend over that knee, chest over that knee, and then just switch around to the other side and come up over the opposite knee. So we're coming up over the opposite knee. Now we're going to bend straight down over that same knee, swinging over to the opposite side, coming up over the knee, and then going back down over the knee. Right now, you'll see me adding in some flair to the movement. Now, this is my flair. This is the culmination of roughly 15 years of doing Qigong. I made this move into what you see right now. It works for me. It feels fantastic. You do not have to copy this exact movement that I'm doing. The main thing of this exercise is you're bending over one knee, swinging to the opposite side, coming up over the knee and bending over the knee again. So it's a back and forth, right and left. You can keep it very basic. Once you get better, you can bend down and crouch as low as possible, really engaging the hamstrings and the buttocks, giving the knees an incredible workout, and the hips as well. This is an incredible movement. I can't speak highly enough of this movement, and again, it is one of my favorites. Do not try to go straight to the advanced move that you see me doing right now. Keep it basic, keep it simple, don't hurt yourself. Okay, this next move. That's a very basic move. I'm sure you've done this many times in your life. So, inhaling up and exhaling over, we're just hanging, essentially. Our knees are slightly bent. Feet planted on the ground about shoulder width apart, making sure your knees are slightly bent. You do not want locked knees. Never do you want locked knees. They always need a slight bend in them. So we're going to hang forward for a short period of time, and then you'll see me rocking back and forth onto my heels gently and onto my toes gently. That's an added part of this movement. You do not have to do that. So we go from center, we hang out in center for a bit, and go over to one side, essentially one ankle, and hang out there for a moment. Then do the opposite ankle and hang out there for a moment. Now we'll go back to center, take in a couple of breaths. We're going to come up, inhaling up. We're going to exhale and essentially lean backwards like we're doing a limbo, trying to get underneath that pole, making sure our knees are bent to protect that lower back. If your knees are too straight on that move, you will injure your low back, so be very careful. Keep your knees bent. And don't bend back too far if you can't handle it. I will repeat this move 3 times. All right, for those of you out there that do yoga or practice yoga, you'll see some of my past yoga experience, years of doing Iyengar yoga and Ashtanga yoga coming in. I added in this pose to this 8 brocade movement. This is not a typical 8 brocade. I added in this pose to get a little more of a hip flexor stretch in. So my front leg, knee is slightly bent, my back leg is slightly bent, my pelvis, right, your pelvis is straight up and down, or essentially tucked forward, so it's straight up and down so that you get that good stretch on the leg that's pointing backwards. You get the good stretch right in front of your hip. Now each hand alternates from right to left. Essentially you're coming up, making a tight fist and lowering down. Coming up, tight fist, and lowering the arm back down. Opposite side coming up, making a tight fist, relaxing, back down. Inhaling up, tight fist, exhaling down. Inhaling up, tight fist, exhaling down. Make sure you're keeping your shoulders down. Protect that neck. Don't incur more neck tension that you already have. Keep those shoulders down. And we just alternate from the right foot forward to the left foot forward, to the right foot forward to the left foot forward. We're going to do basically about three times on each side. Continuing to raise the arm, tighten the fist. So with this move, you get a nice hip flexor stretch, the hips. You get a lovely workout for the fist and pop all those knuckles. You might hear some pops going off. That's a great thing. This warms up the hands in the morning. Alright, here we are at the last move. Feet are about shoulder width apart. We come up onto our toes and just hold it for a moment. It's just a slight pause up onto your toes, really strengthening your toes and your feet. You're spreading your toes out. You're trying to dig into the ground with that pinky toe. Digging into the ground, using your pinky toe for balance as well. Most of us have become quite dependent on the big toe for doing most of the work. By now it's pretty darn tired after a lifetime of doing that. So now is your opportunity to get that pinky toe involved. It wants to be involved too. So really dig that pinky toe into the ground. It may not feel like you're doing anything with it because it lacks the musculature, but over time you'll develop some muscles into that pinky toe and you'll have better balance. You want to hold your hands in 3 different positions. First, you're starting off with the hands on the waist, then they go to the low back, and then they come right up in front, just like that past one of the third exercise. And we're just doing like roughly 6 to 9 repetitions on each holding positions of the hands. And that ends the Qigong session. Congratulations. Daily practice is the most important thing, everybody. 20 minutes a day, 15-20 minutes every single day, and receive enormous benefit.